rock fans from all around the world, welcome to another Musical People and Journeys special. And it is special because we brag that we're international, and today, or this evening I should say, we are truly international because we have James from the incredible Black Magnet. How are you, James? Welcome.
Doing good. Good. Thank you.
And if I'm right in saying, in terms of where you are, you're in Oklahoma City, but you don't wear a hat.
Yeah.
You don't go riding.
That's correct.
You don't go riding on the ranges.
Yeah.
Instead, you scream it out in the pubs and the rock scene in Oklahoma.
Yes. Sometimes I feel like everyone here likes country music. Like if you were born and raised here, it's just kind of like part of your what you just hear from day one. So definitely have an appreciation for being a cowboy to a degree.
So, I mean, well, your music could not be further away from country music, really. So if somebody wants to know more about what style of music you, Black Magnet, produce, how would you describe your music?
I mean, to people who aren't like really avid indie music listeners, I just kind of say metal, in general. But I'm totally good with the term industrial. When people ask what we sound like, I say, anywhere from 9 Inch Nails to Fear Factory to Godflesh, depending on how deep you are into music. But yeah, metal, industrial metal, and most people even I feel like kind of know what industrial is, even if it's just 9 Inch Nails,
So I've got a friend at work. His name is Matt, and he is massively into country music. Massively into, he's a fanatic. And when we were talking about his journey, so why did you get into country music? He said because everybody, when he was growing up, tried to pigeonhole into, well, you've got to listen to this, you've got to listen to that, and so nobody was telling him that he had to listen to country music, and so he kind of rebelled against what everybody was kind of telling him he had to go and do, and went in his own direction, which was country music. Now you would say from Oklahoma City that should be in your DNA, but it's not. So how did you end up in a sense with your brand of industrial heavy metal music then, and not go with the norm?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got into underground music and metal and noise. That's just all fringe culture stuff through skateboarding. And so I started hearing a lot of metal and skate videos, and my cousin and his best friends, they were my neighbors, so I grew up kind of close to them, and they were also really, really into metal and just big into going to the record store and that type of thing. So when I was 16, I started working at a record store, playing in bands, doing that kind of thing, and the owners of the record store were like huge music heads, so they were just showing me kind of deeper levels of stuff. And I grew up playing in bands, mostly like punk and hardcore and metal. And then once I started getting more into electronic music, I started messing with drum machines and synthesizers sort of on my own, just as another outlet of creativity, something to explore. And when I started finding out that there were more bands who were blending metal and synthesizers and drum machines, I just got really, really into the genre and almost more fascinated by what you could do musically with the genre than I even was some of the bands themselves. So it really just came out of getting into messing with drum machines and synthesizers and still kind of being a metalhead, I guess.
I mean, what's the rock scene in terms of where you are in Oklahoma City, which I would imagine is dominated by kind of blues and country music. What's the rock scene like there? Because you mentioned about underground kind of music. Does that mean because a lot of it is kind of below the radar and there's not a huge following? And so how do you get encouraged then to kind of go on your own from that perspective? So how big is that rock scene and in terms of where you're at?
It's always kind of fluctuated depending on what what kind of clubs and venues are here. Growing up, there was a really, really cool club called the Green Door in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And everyone from like, you know, like the White Stripes to the Casualties to Trail of Dead to Agnostic Front. So all types of bands that got huge, smaller punk bands, they all played at this really small 200 capacity venue. And so it was right next to the record store I worked at too. So,
wow.
You know, there's always been like a small, tight, it's been a small community, but it's always been super, super tight knit. So if you were like into that stuff, you were automatically sort of knew you had something in common with everyone else who did. And everyone kind of protected it and stayed really, really closely knit and worked together to keep it going, if you will. And felt like everyone was sort of like on the same team or on the same side. So it was a small scene, but I was lucky to like be a part of it, and it's grown a lot since then. And then now Oklahoma City is still kind of a B market, you know, but it's definitely come a long way, and we get like a good, if we don't get a band's first tour, we usually get like their second tour type of thing. So yeah, I think just like kind of making friends really young and getting into the subculture when I was young helped me just kind of establish a network, I guess, and yeah, help stick people together.
So sorry, when you said Green Door, I just like Shakin' Stevens shoved into my head on What's Behind the Green Door. If you've never heard of Shakin' Stevens, he was Welsh like me, with a great rock and roller he was. But there we go. Sorry, can't. Yeah. Anyway,
I've always wondered if it's named after that. I kind of think it is.
It's got to be. I mean, you know, the guy was, it was all rock and roll, and he was fantastic. He was actually, I think he was quite big in America. So in that age where you had, and some of those bands that you just named were just like absolutely fantastic. What was the band then that really stood out for you that you would have seen at Behind the Green Door? But what was like, because I spoke to a friend of mine about his journey, and he shocked me when he saw Nirvana in Leeds just before they got really big, and he didn't really know who they were really, and hasn't really appreciated how amazing, because it was on a documentary and he was on that gig. So what was the band that you went like, oh my god, these guys are amazing, and then they went on and did great stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even into this style of bands like the White Stripes, but I happened to be at that show, which I think was in 2001.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2000. And I mean, instantly, when you see a good band, no matter what style it is, you're like, wow, this is next level stuff, know? So they stuck out to me. Golly, I'm trying to think. I saw and You'll Know Us by the Trail of the Dead in that same club. And then 3 days later, they were on Letterman, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There's been so many. I'm trying to think of some of the more like extreme stuff. Godflesh and Skinny Puppy played that club in 2000, I think 2000, which is pretty. That really is what probably started a lot of it. Man, I'd really have to think about that question, but I would say, yeah, probably anyone from stuff like that got really popular, like the White Stripes, to more underground stuff like Godflesh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, and that place even had some electronic stuff. Like I saw Square Pusher played there when I was 14, and so seeing that was pretty cool. Just I'd have to think about a few of them, but those are a couple.
and Black Magnet, I presume, have now played Behind the Green Door.
No, it sadly was gone before.
Oh no!
Before we. I know, but it turned into another club called the Conservatory that was kind of part of the owners. It's still, there's actually still shows happening in the same building, which is cool. But it's undergone about 4 owner changes since then. But
such a great.
What is funny about it is there's one bartender that's been there since the beginning. There's one bartender that's been there for like 23 years or something. Yeah,
wow.
Crazy.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know how she's done it, but yeah, she's still there. Yeah,
Black Magnet. Then I think you formed in 2018. Is that right? So you've actually already been going.
Right.
So is this your? I presume it's not your first band, but is this your first band? Have you been just playing in other bands before, or have you formed other bands in terms of how your journey got to there?
I started playing shows. I think my first show was when I was in 8th grade, so maybe 14 years old, which was actually at that club, the Green Door. Yeah, I started just playing in punk bands. I was really into kind of street punk.
Yeah.
And stuff like Discharge and everything like that. So, So I played in a bunch of bands, and but I started really writing my own music heavily, probably around the age of like 21 or 22 type of thing. So I was in a couple of hardcore bands. I was in a band called No Man's Slave that was sort of like a really fast, grindy power, kind of like Napalm Death almost. And I toured with a bunch of different bands. But right before Black Magnet, like I said earlier, when I started like messing with synthesizers and drum machines, I was doing a project that was more of like a new wave band. And it was more of like I would say like Depeche Mode, kind of dark wave type, softer stuff, a little bit softer, but that's what eventually transitioned into Black Magnet. And even some of those songs I was playing in the project before, I kind of made them heavier and they became Black Magnet songs. So I would say, around 2016 is when I really started trying to focus on writing music just by myself. Like I had been writing with other band members, collaborating, but Black Magnet started as a solo project, and it's probably been the first band where I pretty much wrote everything through and through. Yeah.
Okay, so we've come to part of the show that everybody writes in about. It is the highlight of the show. We come to this moment in time where I'm going to hand over. We call it Trish time. It's called Trish time. Trish time, where Trish is going to fire some quick fire questions at you, or maybe not. Who knows with Trish? She rolls the dice and see what we come up with. Trish, I shall pass over to you.
So, how did you choose your band name?
I wanted to do something that was really simple. In the past, I'd done kind of more, I would say deeper or clever band names, or maybe complicated band names that I feel like were just sort of overdoing it. And initially, after I wrote the first like 2 or 3 songs, I just kind of was trying to think of a visual representation of what the music maybe felt like. And I wanted to feel dark and cold, but also maybe something that pulls you in and that you don't have power over of. So, I just felt like a big image of a black magnet in my head kind of reflected the music, and how I was feeling, how I was writing. I was also kind of watching the show Black Mirror at the time, like when it was first kind of coming out. And I don't know if there's a correlation there, but those two things were kind of in my head. So mostly I just wanted something simple, something that you could remember, so.
And I definitely think the cover of Mega Mantra album totally encapsulates that.
Yeah, for sure.
It is a brilliant album cover.
Thank you.
How do you go about writing your songs? Does the music come first or the lyrics?
Yeah, it's usually music. I definitely have like a kind of stack of stuff I'm always writing, thinking about, whether it's like 2 or 3 sentences or that type of thing. And even sometimes 2 or 3 sentences will start the musical idea, but more often than not, it starts with me coming up with a beat on a drum machine, whether it's in my computer or I have a couple of like physical hardware drum machines. But usually I come up with like sort of a unique-ish beat and then put a guitar riff, whether it's simple or complicated, on top of it, and then put a synthesizer riff with it, and then kind of play with those 3 and see what sounds cool and what parts could kind of drop in and out. And And then I usually just really start building the song up. I'm trying to integrate the vocals in there a lot earlier. In the past, it was just like almost write the whole song and then put vocals on top of it. But I've got to be more confident with my singing and a better vocalist. So I feel like it's becoming another instrument right now. So I'm trying to write vocals more along with that early parts of the song. Yeah. But drum machine and guitar, that's usually it.
Obviously, I've seen, you've currently sort of been on tour and stuff. So I would like to know, what's the best show or tour you've ever played, and why was it so special to you?
Let me think. We've opened for some cool bands. Like, trying to think of some of the best shows. I mean, on tour, our best show is probably twice now has been in New York or in New Orleans. For me, New Orleans, our last show in New Orleans was I think the best we've ever played as a band, and it was at a really, really cool venue called the Goat, which is this kind of like satanic themed goat bar, and they have like shrines to goats, and like it's just a really unique sort of like voodoo New Orleans vibe, like environment. Yeah. And I have a lot of friends in New Orleans, and we just like always party really hard there. And if you have in New Orleans, it's just like a really special kind of mystical place. So that was definitely one of the best shows. Is one of the bigger shows. But we've gotten to open for bands like Author and Punisher. We played with Twin Tribes a couple times in Tulsa, and they're a really, really good band. That show sold out. I think we played with them twice. So yeah, I would say for our own shows, probably anytime we play New Orleans or New York, probably New Orleans. But as far as opening for other bands, probably Author and Punisher, Twin Tribes, and maybe Code Orange. Yeah. Sorry, that was a lot
not
of
at all.
answers.
That's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
My last serious sort of question is, before I move on to some fun questions, is what's the best advice you've been given as a musician?
Man, it's funny. I think about that all the time to keep myself motivated sometimes. The best advice that I've been given. I mean, as simple as it is, I guess, don't give up, but I think at least from what I've learned personally, like, every day doesn't have to be a extremely special day for it to be productive. And so it's like a slow burn, a slow roll, and I'm trying to think of like what someone said to me before that was really, really powerful. Just that it has to come from inside, and it has to stay genuine, and it has to be fun. I think that if you don't have love for it, then that's not going to show in the work. And if there's no love there, I've been in bands that no one was enjoying, and I could tell looking back on it that no one really loved it. You know what I mean? And if there's no love there, then there's no fun or spontaneity or sexiness or energy or anything about it. So, I think everything I look up to musicians is just that they're still probably having fun and still like really into it. So, yeah.
Okay.
I wish I had a better quote what one person had said to me, because I feel like that's an amalgamation of.
Yeah, but that's an important factor, isn't it? Because like you take lessons from various different facets of your life and people from your life. Otherwise, if somebody was just going to like, it's probably your parents, but who listens to their parents, So most parents, like, and I'm one myself, basically most of the time go, well, I told you so. And you right. And that's the pleasure you get. Well, I told you so. So you just didn't listen, did you? But there we go. So,
I've got one. It's genius finds you while you're working.
Indeed.
So without Yeah, that's one that I was trying to think of, and that's another thing is just like you can never like let go of the work. Like you have to love the work, you know. Like
Absolutely
so,
right.
genius finds working. Maybe that's a Picasso quote. I don't know,
Maybe.
but
Tell
I'll
you what,
stick
mate.
with
I tell you what, it'd be damn fine lyrics, wouldn't it? There you go.
one. Yeah, right.
I know. Right.
Okay, I've just got some like quick fire questions. So, favorite film?
Ooh, with a gun to my head, I'd have to say either probably Eraserhead is where everything started for me. I mean, where I was like, anything that's like this, I'll be interested in. So that, trying to think, I really love The Holy Mountain by Jodorowsky, which is a cool kind of oddball 70s like art freak. I'll stick with Eraserhead for now.
Favorite food?
I'm really partial to Mexican food. You know,
Nice.
I love Mexican food, like really authentic kind of taco truck stuff. Mexican or Korean.
Nice.
Good choice. Good choice.
Good answer.
Favorite singer or band?
Oh. Probably David Bowie as far as singer, where it really starts. Favorite band of where things really started was the Ramones. You know,
Quality. Yeah. Quality.
Where all of my interests start in music, pretty much. So yeah, I'll say the Ramones.
My final question is going to be, what's your favorite song off of Mega Mantra album?
Probably Better Than Love, for sure.
That's what I've written down. Yes.
It's the best song on there.
Okay, Nigel, I'll hand back to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's okay. Well done. So, very interesting in terms of your type of music, because Trish said to me just, it wasn't your style of music. It was actually, I think I give you like 3.5 out of 5 because vocally you say about developing your kind of vocal range, and right now you're not far off because you do verge onto metalcore in terms of screamo,
right.
And kind of some of your tracks are a bit not quite my cup of tea, but most of your stuff, I we have this big debate where I've just had to listen to kind of Lorna Shore, and it's going to get a big fat 0.5 off me or something. I just can't cope with that. And then you look at something like I Prevail's latest album, where it's a mixture. It's half of it is clean vocals, the other half is kind of full on kind of metalcore. So, and your style of music tends to take it right, because I believe I like a bit of metalcore when it accentuates the song rather than dominates it, which some of your music, some of your kind of music does really. You go over the edge a couple of times, but you're right at that cusp of what my tolerance level is then for kind of metalcore, and I was kind of picked up on the fact that you said about developing your kind of vocal range. So, and you kind of, for me, you kind of if you draw it back to a bit more clean vocals, I think I would be more of a fan. But how do you see that kind of developing, and where do you think your path lies, and where does your passion want to take you to? Is it more down that metalcore route, or more down the industrial with metalcore vibes in there? How do you see that developing?
Yeah, so Mega Mantra was actually recorded at the very end of 2023.
Right.
So there's been like, even since then, there's been like a ton of like, especially like for me vocally, there's been a ton of growth. And, I didn't grow up singing or anything. This band I've been like the singer of type of thing. So, really it was just sort of, I'm trying to think how to explain this. I've always wanted to explore singing and more melodic stuff, but I felt like that because I hadn't previously been able to. It was almost like I had to write heavier music because that's what I could scream to, if you will. And so it was kind of like a restrictive sort of like, okay, I know if I can't sing it, but if I write this kind of music, I can put vocals into it. and I can sort of get away with it. And as my voice has developed, it's kind of gone the other way, where now I can sing more melodically a little bit, and which has just only expanded the way I can write songs. So now I feel like I can write more melodic and, even more like synth driven dance, catchy poppy stuff, where in the past and so it sort of held me back. Like the vocals almost held me back more than my want to write metal, if you will, type of thing. So yeah, I mean, all the new songs we have about 10 new songs written, and they're much more, I mean, there's some of them are still heavy and I'm screaming, but they're much more chorus oriented and have melodic hooks. And we're working with a new producer who's got like pretty good vocal chops under him. So and that's been the other thing is we haven't had like a ton of funding for recording, and so it's been, we've been limited to making these, like all our albums were done in 4 days in the studio. And so while we also demo at home a lot, you can't really encapsulate everything on how it's going to go down until you cram them in those 4 days. So I think in the future, obviously, I would really like to focus on my vocals more, and that become like a strong point. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, I'm really trying to write the songs around the vocals and with the vocals in mind more than I ever had in the past. So yeah, I definitely see it going in a much more vocal, melodic. I also took like 6 months of vocal lessons this year. So,
well, James, yeah. let me tell you something now, and this is probably something of having self-belief in yourself. We've reviewed 600 albums now over the last 3.5 years, right? So we've listened to a lot of crap and a lot of good stuff. You can sing, mate.
Yeah.
You can sing. You've got a voice.
Thank you.
You've got a voice, definitely, and it suits that. It suits that kind of heavier, kind of melodic style. I kind of like, some of our bands that we really kind of like. One of the genres I like is heavy kind of melodic rock. Really, really kind of that borders on that industrial. That doesn't go into that stops itself going into prog rock, which I kind of have 6 minutes and 8 minutes of trying to work out what they're saying. Somebody came on, there was a prog rock guy, and he's brilliant, and he said, like, we asked him what was prog rock, and he said it's a song that's trying not to be a song, which is actually a really great description of kind of prog rock. And you've got a good voice, mate. You believe in it, and believe me, I have to filter out a lot of we can only review 16 albums a month, so half the guys are on the half stage and the other guys are on the slightly last stage, so you've got to stand out in order just to get into my shortlist. Do you know what I mean? So your voice has got to be so have a little bit of self-belief. I think you've got a really good voice. So
I think it'll keep getting better too. And I'm writing more with like piano right now too. So that's really helping kind of get to like the core of what I want to do in the song and vocally. And just I feel like it's it's something that I want to like age with too. Like, not that you can't scream when you're 50, but like I want to, I want the music to age well. Me, I don't want to look like kind of washed up for sure, trying to do something that's outside of my, I don't know,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You look at the way Linkin Park have developed, and they one of my favourite albums of the year has been with a new singer, but it's very much a duet, really. But and they use that metalcore. They use metalcore to accentuate that rather than dominate in the kind of part. So. But anyway, that's just my preference. Just my preference from that perspective.
Yeah, a band like Mastodon's another good example of that. Who's kind of they grew into more of a melodic band.
So what's the future holding for you then? You say you've got 10 new tracks. So a new album coming out in the next 12 months? What's the plan?
Yeah, I hope so. So we have like a month-long tour with an artist named Author and Punisher in February, but in January we're recording 2 new songs with a producer named Nick Rowe. And he's in LA. He has a studio in Joshua Tree. And so we're doing 2 songs with him that I think should come out right before that Author and Punisher tour. So, I don't know if that's going to be more of the next album or we're going to drop just more singles. It kind of depends on funding. Like if we get funding for a record, I have plenty of songs I could go in the studio next week and start on, So, but it wouldn't. It's kind of crossed my mind to just put out like 5 batches of 2 songs every couple months, and then release sort of a compilation album as something just different. I don't know. It kind of depends. I need to like see on a bunch of things, but
well, look, we
yeah,
review
definitely
albums, so please do an album. I can't. So,
I know. I want to do a whole album again. It's just
so
it's one of those things like
how do you fund yourself then? You have a day job, I presume.
yeah. We all have day jobs. So on the first two albums, we were on a label called 20 Bucks Spin, which is kind of more of like a death metal label, and they gave us a little bit of a budget. And for this new record, we partly self-funded it, but worked a deal. Federal Prisoners, run by Greg Puciato and Jesse Draxler, and Jesse's an amazing artist who does a lot of high-end stuff. So we kind of did a trade where he was going to do all of our visual rebrand, all of our merch, album layout, artwork, the whole 9 yards, and we were going to like get the album out basically. And so it was a pretty good trade-off. But yeah, we pretty much self-fund it with getting a little extra funding where we can find it. Yeah. So yeah, we all have day jobs and that type of thing.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you all the way from Oklahoma City. It's been an absolute. Right. We do really wish you all the very best, and hopefully we can talk to you again when you do eventually get your new album out.
Yeah.
But check out Black Magnet, and name of the album. Remind me, because
Mega Mantra.
I did know it, but she likes to say it. Mega Mantra. That would be awesome. James, thank you ever so much for joining us all the way across from the pond. Thank you ever so much, and we wish you and keep on rocking. Hey, everybody, hit the like and subscribe button and share our videos. That'll be absolutely amazing. So, and James, good night, and keep on rocking.
Woo!
Thanks, guys.